Welcome to Books on Point. Well, do you dream of a future free of financial stress, one where you can afford to start your own business, travel or retire comfortably? This afternoon, I'm joined by investment specialist Anthea Gardner, who's the author of Make Your Money Work For You. This book shows you how to sweat your assets and grow your wealth to achieve your dreams, and you won't even need a degree in accounting. Anthea, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, Nastassia.
So let's talk about the book. I mean, I think we have a lot of personal finance books, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show was because we're going into Savings Month in July, and a lot of the times we talk about people saving money for investments and various other things. Why write the book at this particular point?
Well, I wrote the book. It wasn't my idea, actually. The publishers phoned me up and said, you should write a book. And I went, what about?
Yeah.
And they said, well, isn't it obvious? Money. What happened was I managed my sister's money.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to her, and we grew up in a family of bankers. My dad is a banker. And she kind of, as I was talking to her, I could see her eyes glaze over a little bit, and I thought, you're not understanding everything I say, are you? And she went, no idea.
Yeah.
I thought, how is that possible? And then one day I was on one of these programs talking about the stock market and about shares and what to look for in shares and what's happening in the economy. And she messaged me and she said, oh, so that's what you do for a living? And I thought, uh-oh, the girl needs a bit of education. And I realized that actually there's a lot to be said for, like, what is in this world of finance,
yeah.
you know, and people are intimidated by financial planners. They don't know what questions to ask. And then the other financial books are kind of a little bit step one, step two,
Yeah.
step three, and by the time you get to 4, you're half asleep, right? So I wanted to write a book that was a bit interesting, that gave you some insight into the world of finance. So there's a chapter on who's who in the zoo.
Right.
And it tells you who the financial planner is and what I do, the asset manager, and kind of how far apart, what happens in between. So that's really what it was. And then at the same time, give you an idea of how to go about thinking about your financial goals, because there is no one solution. So I don't think there's one solution that suits everybody.
We actually have the graphic on screen, the investment zoo, as you call
Oh, that's
it.
very good.
So the one thing that caught my attention, I mean, you call it the investment zoo, and you know, we have tortoises, giraffes, and elephants as well. Why a zoo?
It was a bit, to be honest, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. And if you know anything about the investment world, you'll know that it's driven by, like, these characters, right? So I've spent a lot of my life working on the trading floor. And you need a thick skin, so I fall under the pachyderms, like the elephants and the hippopotamus, just to deal with people. And people are it's quite a stressful job managing other people's money. And so you get these, like, wacky characters, and it's really tongue-in-cheek. I was being a bit cheeky.
Speaking of your time on the investment floor, I mean, was it natural that you would gravitate to sort of finance and money, seeing that your parents were in the banking world?
Actually, not at all. In fact, I got told off by my dad once because he heard me on radio say that I wanted to be a teacher and nothing like him.
Yeah.
And he just worked really hard, and he was always studying. I mean, he was great. He always made time for us. I'm not saying that's the problem. But I used to look at him and think, wow, you work so hard and you're so stressed and you manage people's money. And so I didn't want to. But I was in London working for a wine company, strangely enough. And we were out for dinner one night, client dinner, and the owner, who used to be a trader, said to me, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? You should be a trader. You've got the temperament of a trader. Do you know that? And I went, oh, and what do traders do? And that's kind of how the journey started. And then I came back. I was in London at the time. I came back to South Africa, got a job at HSBC, and, well, from there it's kind of, you know, trading, sales trading, asset management, and now asset management at Cartesian Capital.
All right. With a book like this, I mean, most people can just see it as any other self-help book that could be on the shelves. And the one thing I liked about your story is that you even bring in aspects of the fact that, yes, you do manage your sister's money. And also you come across as having connected to each of the different chapters, which then brings me to my next question. What's your relationship with investing and finance, and how did the journey sort of start for you?
So my dad being a bank manager, there was no doubt. Do you remember those Auto Plus and Bob cards? So he was a Standard Bank manager. So we all had Auto Plus cards. And to this day, I cannot understand why we don't have it anymore. Like it's really crazy that the banks don't offer juniors their cards or junior accounts like we used to have, because we used to learn to budget, right?
Yeah.
And so there are two things I don't understand about the schooling system. One, I never got taught the Constitution. And two, they never taught me how to fill in my tax form.
Yeah.
And so... So that's kind of where my journey started with these Standard Bank Auto Plus cards and learning to budget, and obviously my father expecting that of us. And to now, my focus really now is more about managing other people's money.
Right.
You know, I wake up in the morning and I want to know what happened in the stock market. Is the stock market going up or down? What's driving the market? Is Donald Trump tweeting while I was asleep and turning things upside down? Where's gold? What's happening in the market? And also we look at shares very closely, you know, so we analyze the companies, we want to know what the PE ratios, the EV/EBITDA, and then I'm specifically saying that because that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Because mostly when we talk, and you and I as well, we talk about the PE ratios and what's happening in the stock market. But my clients, my ultimate clients, whose pension fund money I'm managing or whose discretionary money I'm managing are so far removed, they don't care about PE ratios and EBITDAs. You know, they want to know what's generally happening in the market, and they want a sense of comfort when they can go. So the book I wrote really was two things. You can either read the book and go to your financial planner and say, I have some questions for you because now I know things. Or you can try and do it yourself through a robo-advisor, which I also touch on in the book, which is fun. And a lot of people phone me or email me and say, how can I double my money?
Yeah.
And you go, well, actually, I teach you about the rule of 72, which teaches you how long it takes to double your money. So if you're investing at a 6% yield, it'll take you 72 divided by 6, which is 12 years to double your money, right? So you obviously, if you want to double your money in a less time, in 6 years, then you need to get a 12% return, and it works for all the different numbers. And so that's what that book is trying to say. And I know investing in shares is exciting. It is very exciting. But I try to tell people not to just choose one share that only works for them. You know, build a nice diversified portfolio.
All right. Well, Anthea, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Well, the recommended book for the week is titled The 7 Things Every Young Black Entrepreneur Should Know. It's by Karabo Mokwape. It is a practical and inspirational guidebook aimed at empowering the next generation of young black entrepreneurs. All the information on this book is based on the author's decades of experience as an entrepreneur and represents distillation of the most important lessons he's learned. Readers will be empowered to understand how to leverage their strengths, minimize their weaknesses, and count the true cost of success from all the perspectives of a young black entrepreneur. Well, that's it from the News at 1 team. After this, it's your weather details. Goodbye.